Thousands of students enrol on nursing courses each year. 53% of student nurses say they were satisfied with the course they chose. We sat down with 4 student nurses to find out the reality of being a student nurse.
She actually assaulted me on the first day through
dying so
emotionally difficult and also physically difficult.
He unfortunately passed away, and
My name is Phoebe Cliff and I'm 21.
I'm Megan Leake, I'm 20.
My name's Jasmine and I'm 20 years old.
I'm Holly May and I'm 21.
I had a very poorly grandmother before she passed away, and seeing the care that she was provided with, it kind of ignited a bit of a spark in me, and it allowed me to understand that that was actually something that I'd like to do, and I'd like to support people the way that my grandma was supported.
So a lot of the reasons that why I chose adult nursing for uni was based on kind of caring for my grandma before coming to uni. My grandma's a dementia patient in a care home, and I spent a lot of time with her, kind of with the nurses, kind of tending to her, looking after her, bathing her, showering her, etc. So that was the main reason why I wanted to do nursing at uni.
My dad's been in the army, he's had some experiences that's led him to have some difficulties, and being around that has made me be more interested in wanting to expand my knowledge on mental health too.
I went to hospital a few times when I was a child for operations, and I was quite a nervous little child, so the nurses really helped me in those situations and I appreciated that. And then I've always loved caring for people since then, so yeah, it just felt, natural.
It was very mixed. Coming into it, obviously during COVID was a bit of an issue anyway. Going on to placement, I was very much kind of thrown in at the deep end a little bit. But the experience in general was relatively up and down, as expected with nursing, because obviously you go in here, there, and everywhere.
Me personally, yes, I had a brilliant mentor for the first placement I ever worked on, and I'm very thankful for that because it was such an intense placement. It was good to know that I had someone that had really taken me under their wing.
On one of my placements, which was on a day unit, I had a really nice practice assessor. She was really supportive and inclusive of me as soon as I joined the team.
Other placements, not so much. I've only stayed in contact with her as opposed to the other 2 people that I worked with. But the dermatology clinic, was a lady who was quite set in her ways, and she was very, she almost, I didn't feel like she wanted to do what she was doing. I didn't feel like she wanted to mentor me.
But the other 2, unfortunately, they weren't quite as supportive as I would have hoped, which is disappointing. But there were definitely other staff that weren't allocated to me as supervisors and assessors that were always inclusive of me the whole time, so yeah.
63% of students agreed that the staff were excellent at explanations and really cared for the students. However, do the students feel that being thrown in the deep end was the right approach for them?
For me specifically, yes, because of the nature of the ward that I was first on. It was very intense, it was very busy, and it was very kind of in your face busy. It wasn't like a low-key sort of vibe. And for me, I worked well with that. I was able to learn quickly, adapt quickly, and understood what was needed of me quite quickly.
Yeah, it's good. I've always felt really included from the get-go, and that became apparent as well with, there was one team where it's doctors involved. There was doctors, junior doctors, nurses, and even the doctors and the psychiatrists there were involving me in their discussions.
So my first ward that I ever went on was a trauma and orthopaedics ward. So that was where we would have people who had got into an accident or any sort of fall or break, and they'd come into A&E and then they'd come to us, and then it was linked to the orthopaedic surgery theatres. So a lot of the time we'd have patients going in and out through surgery, and then they'd be discharged onto another ward. And then the other ward I worked on was an oncology ward. That was an admissions ward where we would get people who were suffering from any form of cancer. If they had any illness or symptoms caused by either the cancer or the treatment, so radiotherapy or chemotherapy, then they would be admitted into our ward and only stay with us for probably a day or so. and then we moved onto another ward.
On one of my first days, it was on an inpatient setting on a psychiatric hospital. So like illnesses there, it ranges from like your depression to people with psychosis. One girl, she had schizophrenia, and she actually assaulted me on the first day, threw a mug and a handbag at me. So that was interesting. There's other times where I've been working with older people who have had dementia, so that's been quite hard. Sometimes watching that, knowing that you can't actually help them recover, and it's only a management, and watching like the disease progress isn't very nice. However, there's also been good times working in the community and actually being able to help those recover and get back into community living. So overall there's ups and downs, but it's been quite interesting.
So coming into placement, I was very much thrown in at the deep end. I was put as a HCA in an NHS care home, specialising in dementia and palliative care. So palliative care obviously means end of life care. So I'd never seen a dead body before, never looked after anybody who was dying before except someone really close to me. So it was a whole new experience anyway. And going into the care home, there was no distinction between me and other members of staff that had been there for like 10 years or something like that. So I was very much treated as a normal member of staff. There was no kind of realisation that I was actually a new student. I hadn't been here before. And it was on one of my first days, probably my second day in the care home. I was with a patient who, he was on palliative care, but there was no indication that he would be kind of dying so quickly, essentially. And he just died when I was on shift on my own with him in the room with him, and it was just me, there was nobody else with me. I was completely on my own, and that really kind of, I had no idea what to do. It really hit me quite a lot, because I was like, there's literally a dead body here, like what do I do with this? And then kind of coming out of that and letting another member of staff know, it was very much kind of like an interrogation. What happened, what did you give him, or what was he doing, things like that. And I'd never even been prepared for this. I'd never been told I'd experienced this, and I was just another member of staff, and it just happened. So I coming out of that, like after my shift, I wasn't even allowed to go home early or anything like that, but coming out of that after my shift, it was way too much, and that kind of led to me really not wanting to do the course anymore.
Like, they did get a debriefing team in, so there was a psychologist that came in who then spoke to everyone involved, and we all spoke about how we felt, how it made us feel, and how we're going to move forward with our approach. And also on one of my other placements, the mentors there were really supportive, and they went above and beyond for my personal well-being as well.
Not all students got the same support.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think coming out of it, I mean, like I said, I wasn't even allowed to go home early, things like that. Coming out of it, there wasn't really kind of any follow-up, are you okay? Kind of, what happened, do you want to talk about it? And even when I went into my next shift a couple of days later, there wasn't any sort of recognition as to what had happened. It was very much another day had passed, we carry on as normal. And again, I found myself, in rooms with palliative patients on my own. Nothing like happened like that again, but kind of there wasn't really anyone around me that could have given me any support at all, which was why I kind of ended up leaving the course, really.